Hello, welcome to today's presentation. On behalf of Swastika Canada, I welcome you to this presentation of the extraordinary origin of the Buddhist symbol, which is the swastika. We are highlighting today the International Day of the Rehabilitation of the Swastika. So during this presentation, feel free if you have any questions to write them in the chat, and we will be able to answer them at the end of the presentation. So we will start with a very short video. Simon, when you're ready, please go ahead with the video.
A truth hidden for thousands of years will be revealed to you. The swastika. It has been on Earth for more than 10,000 years. How did it appear in cultures and legends on all continents? All over the world, our ancestors have witnessed many things that they have passed on to us. Venerated by billions of human beings, the philosophical charge of this symbol is still misunderstood. We invite you to discover what the swastika reveals about the origins of our humanity.
Thank you so much, Simon. So you probably heard a very enthusiastic, very charismatic voice over that video. I'd like to introduce you to this wonderful person. His name is David from Vancouver. Hello, David. How are you today?
Very good, Sharon. Thank you for those beautiful words. And what an amazing video. Yes, very well done. And it certainly brings a lot of questions to the mind. And just to inform everybody, Pro Swastika is present in several different countries around the world. And it is here to inform people of the true meaning of the swastika, because here in the West, we still have a tainted image of the true meaning and where it's come from. It is also an ancient symbol that has been associated with peace and well-being and spirituality.
Indeed. Thank you so much, David. So in how many countries can we find the swastika, and for how many years has this symbol existed?
Yes, good question. We don't know precisely the number of countries or cultures where the swastika is found. However, the swastika has already been widespread in all countries at times when global navigation did not yet exist, which is interesting. And another interesting point I'd like to add is that our humanity has been in contact with the swastika for over 13,000 years. And before the Second World War, and I think we have some pictures there we can bring up. These are the swastikas that you can see that have existed through history, going back to the reference of 13,000 years. In the time frame from here to then, you can see there's actually a Christian one. There's, of course, we have the First Nations and the Jains. So very interesting. There's actually a Jewish one down on the bottom right corner. So this, I'm sure, would be kind of an eye-opener for people. And these are true symbols. These existed. So, and before the Second World War, if we can go to some of the other pictures there, this is actually an also very interesting depiction of all the different symbols. Up in the top right corner, you can see one from I think 13,000 years ago. So this is one of the oldest symbols that we know of. Mm-hmm. So again, very interesting where they come from. Why do we have all these different symbols? Here's a few more depictions of different ones, different cultures. We have some that I believe there's sorry, can't see the Navajo. We have Poland. There's the Germany one, of course, famous. Changed the face of the swastika. Unfortunately, it got a little bit of tainted on that. So Hitler took it and befouled it. But this is why the West has this unclear vision of the swastika, if I can say. But if we can go to the next slide, so this will get a little bit more interesting. This is actually, so before the Second World War, right here home in Canada and the US, you can see the swastika, and this is one of the advertisements we have. This is actually a Coca-Cola fob. These are all from about the 1920 area time. This is interesting. They're trying to sell salt for your snow with a swastika in the upper left-hand corner. These are all consumer products, very interesting. These are all consumer products of daily life. I think these were a cracker. This is actually a postcard. It's hard to read at the bottom, but it's saying,
may our glorious flag and this lucky star guide you and keep you wherever you are.
Wow, and this is in the US. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. And this is actually a female hockey team. There's actually also a male one. I don't think we have that picture with us today, but this is from the 1920s. I believe it was a bit predated to that by a few years, but very interesting. It's incredible. They wore the swastika for good luck. This is actually a US postal airplane with the swastika. It's there to see just below the wing in front of the pilot there. Again, very interesting. And this is actually a boat anchor from a British merchant navy ship, which they put on there for good luck. Very fascinating. Also, so moving forward, there's more interesting, again, here in North and South America, the First Nations already knew about the swastika thousands of years before Europeans arrived on this continent, the North American continent. The presence of their ancestors in the Mississippi region dates back to about 4,000, 8,000 years ago. The First Nations, such as the Navajo, the Apache, the Hopi, the Lakota, known as the Sioux, have been using the swastika for centuries. And it can be seen in their traditional art, and I believe we have a few pictures for that. This is some of their attire they'd wear. You can see the swastika at the bottom there in the center. I believe this is, there's tapestry, and there's also, I believe there's this is a very interesting, very beautiful. I believe this is done in sand, and it's showing the 4 seasons of fishing, hunting, harvesting, etc. Very beautiful, very interesting. Why they'd be using that symbol to signify their 4 seasons in such a beautiful, artistic way. Here, this one, I'm not actually sure the picture, but again, showing the swastika in its many different forms, the First Nations.
Thank you so much, David.
Yes.
You can really see that everywhere in the world. So are there any similarities between the different legend and mythologies coming from places all around the world where the swastika is present? Is there any similarities between those different cultures, different mythologies?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. Another great question. Yes. Among many cultures around the world, had a multitude of more or less similar stories have been passed on from one generation to another by the First Nations people. One of the most important stories passed on was in reference, sorry, something in my eye, a reference to objects which move in the sky, which are described with the simple words of those distant cultures. For example, among the First Nations, one of the most common symbols is the thunderbird shown here. And there's also the feathered snake, known as the snake, the sky snake. The similarity between these legends refers to luminous beings of the sky, or even small men. This is just another depiction of some of the early examples of these mystical beings. And for example, one of the mythologies of the Choctaw people was said that a little man about 2 feet tall lived among a thick forest that gave the name, the Choctaw gave this person the name of Bopali. Bopali was never seen by ordinary Choctaws. He was only seen by prophets and doctors. And doctors from the tribe reported that Bopali had helped them in the making of medicines. And some stories even say that Bopali stole little children, took them into the woods. You know, those scary stories we have when we're children, stay out of the woods. But took them into the woods to teach them about medicine and herbs. and after bringing them children home, will probably no longer intervene with them and leaving them to grow up and become the tribe's doctors. Very interesting. So these are stories that are passed down to the Choctaw. Another legendary story from the Lakota First Nations tells that the Lakota Nation, which is the Sioux, was visited several centuries ago by a female spiritual being. It is said that this woman was a magnificent being radiating with light, and that she gave the Lakota the highest spiritual teachings, as well as peace rituals, which would be stumbling my words here, were to be shared amongst all other tribes. So it was their responsibility to bring these teachings of peace to share with other tribes. Very interesting. Another interesting point, many peoples among the First Nations speak of star peoples. And some of their prophets say that these star beings with whom they had many contacts with over the centuries will return in times of earthly change. It's kind of interesting. We have many religions that speak about this, but now we have people before these religions lived there for 1,000 years, and they're also talking about these great changes, which is these signs being floods, fires, and earthquakes. So whether it's firebirds, little men, star people, or even legends from around the world who speak about flying carpets, chariots of fires, leprechauns, gnomes, elves, cherubs, it's many mystical things because that's the science they had back at that time. All these descriptions of similar phenomena describe a similar difference from primitive cultures which knew the swastika.
Mm-hmm. So if those objects in the sky and beings from the stars are the common points between all these cultures, what is the connection between the swastika and those beings and objects from the sky?
Very good question again. This is where things create a little bit more of a connection. So there's currently an international philosophical movement called the Raelian movement. In brief, the Raelian philosophy explains that humanity was created scientifically by an advanced civilization coming from another planet and having a perfect mastery of genetic engineering. This civilization is called the Elohim. This is a word from the Bible, some people may recognize. The word Elohim is a plural word, which means those that actually came from the sky. Excuse me. We can also find the word Elohim in the Genesis of the Bible written in Hebrew. All the prophets in the history of humanity have been contacted by the Elohim, and all religions speak of one or more gods coming from the sky, which is very interesting, fascinating. And I actually have here, this is the original one in French. You can see that properly. Reverse on the camera.
No, it's not reversed on my end. It's good.
No, moving it. The left-right thing. So this is the message. This book was written by Rael, the last of the prophets whom the Elohim contacted in December 13th, 1973. And in the book, Rael tells about his contact with the Elohim and that he was given a message intended for all of humanity, not just a certain type, but all humanity. Explain the scientific creation of all life on Earth. This being said, as you can see on the face of the book, the swastika is there. It's interesting. The swastika is a symbol that represents the civilization of the Elohim. So that's what the swastika is, actually the symbol that the Elohim use to represent themselves. And the symbol is engraved on the vehicles in which they travel, meaning UFOs, flying objects. It is therefore thanks to these numerous visits from the Elohim interacting since the beginning of humanity that this symbol could be seen and reproduced in different ways, because the people who were witnessing the contacts with the Elohim would see the symbol, and that's why it's so venerated all over the planet, either in whole or part or everywhere on Earth. That's why we have this symbol on all different continents, even before any, I could say, colonizers came to North America. That's why the native, the First Nations people were using the swastika. Again, very interesting. And in the message given to Rael, now known as Intelligent Design, the English version, the Elohim explained that they created the first human beings a little over 13,000 years ago. Very interesting. This is why I said at the beginning of the presentation that men have known of swastika for a little over 13,000 years now. I find it very fascinating.
That's incredible. So if the swastika comes from the Elohim, does the swastika have a meaning or a philosophical dimension that we need to know about?
Absolutely, yes. It's a very deep spiritual symbol. And not only a spiritual symbol, but a scientific symbol, as we can see it here. So the symbol represents infinity and time and space. So this is the symbol that this advanced humanity have used to signify infinity, which means everything within us, around us, and which we're a part of. So that being said, as you can see, the triangle pointing upwards in the swastika, the symbol, I should say, resembles the infinitely large. Everything we're a part of, the stars, this galaxy, which is infinite. I won't go into details on that now, but it is a significantly, a very deep understanding of where we've come from as human being and what happens after our death and everything. So it's very tied into everything in life. And the triangle pointing down resembles the infinitely small, where we've come from. But as our scientists are discovering, we can't get something from nothing. So this resembles the infinitely small, which is infinite. And then you have the swastika in the center, which resembles infinity in time and space, which is cyclic, meaning nothing is gained, nothing is lost. Matter always existed, and it always will. We're only a bit of matter and energy for a small portion of our life right now. Hopefully we have science to change that, but soon we go back to dust, but it's not lost, it's changed into something else. And again, interesting, there's actually to go a bit forward here to make a few more connections with the swastika. In a museum in South America, there are two small statues. Do we have pictures of those by chance?
No, I don't.
No. Representing a man and a woman. The two statues carry medallions representing the symbol of infinity. So these are things that actually exist. You can actually find them in the museum. We have those the actual location of those things if someone was interested to see those actual facts. It is also said a long time ago, the Japanese emperor were chosen by the gods. This is interesting again. In the last century, and a body was exhumed of an emperor who reigned several centuries ago and wore a medallion representing the symbol of infinity, which they found on him. Very fascinating. And even more interesting, in South Korea, a spiritual site dedicated to Dagon. Dagon was the first Korean ancestor who built ancient Korea 7,000 years ago. They say he was the son of the heavenly gods. Their temple is located on an island on a mountain named Mani, and where these ceremonies were dedicated to the celestial gods and have been participating for thousands of years. And the emblem that represents this religious order is the symbol of infinity. Wow, surprise, surprise. And this is a picture of Raelian. This is actually a Raelian symbol in a Korean temple.
Yes, thank you so much, David. Sorry, I'm just gonna close the share. So that definitely gives a better picture of how we can find the symbol literally all over the world because it came from the same source, the Elohim. So how is it important that we know the true meaning of the swastika? Because most people on earth don't really know, so that's why we have this day to rehabilitate it. So why is it so important that we learn the true meaning of this swastika?
Absolutely, because it's important to know the truth and to open our brains to try to understand the true origins of the symbol. And there's actually one point I'd like to make. There's actually the oldest church in the world in Ethiopia actually has a swastika adorned in its window. So it's important that to make the connection that this symbol is very old, long before Hitler took it and befouled it. So this is, again, like you said, this is why we have the Swastika Rehabilitation Day. And it's out of respect for the millions of people around the world who meditate and every day in front of the symbol, and it gives off harmonizing waves, which is known in spiritual meditations. Of course, the symbol has there's a mathematical equation to the symbol, which we don't quite understand yet. And the culture of the West understand that the swastika is never a negative symbol of violence. So it's important that it has never been a symbol of violence till Hitler took it and befouled it, unfortunately. And the lack of knowledge about the swastika could potentially lead to very unhappy gestures, which I wear the symbol, a rather large one every day, because there's no question about it. It's my choice. But unfortunately, I have had usually people from the Second World War who are very upset, but when I explain to them, they're actually grateful. So it's very interesting to see when people understand really what it's about. And it's just something, it's like taking the color of any color of the rainbow, red, and using it to persecute a type of people and excluding it from the rainbow. It's crazy. Anyways, the consequence of lack of knowledge on part of Westerners offended by the swastika is that Japan, how can I say, recently the West doesn't understand the swastika, and in Japan to this day, fascinating enough, I was there a few years ago, they use the swastika on a tourist pamphlet to locate all the temples, because to them it's a beautiful spiritual symbol. But if you're coming from the West, it can be a little, difficult to understand that. And to go on further, today's presentation shows that the swastika is not only a symbol intended by man, but to be a peaceful symbol, that it's come from an advanced being. So this is why, again, to make that connection 13,000 years ago, it's come from an advanced humanity. This is why we find it on all continents. This is why it's so essential to let mankind know that it is the true meaning, that it is not only the true meaning, but also where it comes from, because it is part of the symbol of the Elohim. And the Elohim have made sure that the symbol represents them and that it is not forgotten, and it serves as proof when they return. And do we have, I'll show you this is again, this is the actual message that Raoul was given in 1973. If anybody would like to read it, we can give you the website at the end. We also have, you can go to Pro Swastika, which I think Sharon here might pop up in a minute, I'm not sure, but it's very simple. There we go, proswastika.org. If you go there, you'll find all the links to the Raelian philosophy and the actual message.
Here it's separate. We see the swastika on the doors and the Star of David on the top. Interesting.
That's an interesting picture with the swastika at the very top of the art.
It's not very visible on the top of the ceiling. There's a symbol there.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw a message from Nicole. Is there a connection with the return of the Elohim and this symbol?
That would be for me, apparently, yes.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to answer that yourself. Yes, absolutely. This is what we went over in the presentation, the connection between the ancient cultures who have seen the swastika for over 13,000 years, and the connection with the Elohim, and from especially with the Raelian point of view, before the Raelian point of view, the swastika is there so when the Elohim do return, that they will be recognized, that where the symbols come from. But to go further with that, yes, the Raelians actually would like to build an embassy, which we're in negotiations with a few countries right now to have that done. We've been working on that since 1973, and things are progressing with that, but it's up to us. We build the embassy. This is the third temple that's spoken about in the Bible, and we'd like to welcome this advanced scientific humanity who created all life on Earth, if we want to welcome them, but it's up to us. If you want to know more about that, you can contact us through rel.org or read the message, and it'll explain everything very clearly.
I think also that they helped us to spread the message and welcome them by planting that symbol everywhere in the world. There's no other connection unless it's all coming from the same source. So
very good point. Yes.
All right, so I think we answered all the questions. So thank you so much, David, for being with us today and clarifying the misconception of this beautiful symbol, ancient symbol that represents peace and love, well-being all over the world. Thank you all for being here today. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.